how does Canada Soccer handle the fallout of the Alphonso Davies agent statement, calling everything into question, from coaches, from the association, to should he have played, did he want to play, was he pressured to play, etc., etc. Gareth Wheeler, Jordan Wilson, and Christian Jack did a great job of going through the timeline and offering some color yesterday on the program, but we've yet to hear from you, Mr. Platt.
And everyone's been waiting.
I know, the moment that everyone's been waiting for, so let's not make them wait a moment longer. I guess, Ollie, and you're of course always welcome to fill in whatever color you'd like, but alas, the main question that we want to get to today is, where does the relationship go from here? Jesse Marsch, Alphonso Davies, how do they patch things up?
Yeah, I think you hope that obviously maybe time eases some tensions and pressures here, and Alphonso Davies is obviously going to spend an extended period of time away from the Canadian men's national team now because of his injury. I would imagine it will be a priority of Jesse Marsch's to meet with the player in person and not to do this remotely and over the phone and so on. And obviously he has the ability to do that living in Italy and having Alphonso relatively nearby in Germany. So I imagine that will happen, and they'll try to figure out what happened here and where the breakdown was and how they patch things up. It's very important they do that, because, you know, your coach and captain need to be able to speak honestly and bluntly and authentically with each other and not be kind of tiptoeing around the other one when it comes to this relationship. I think the difficult part of this for me, and the problem that we have a little bit is that there's just such a big contradiction in terms of the two stories that are being told here, that I don't know how you kind of massage it over. It's not one way you can say, like, maybe there's been some misunderstandings or misinterpretations and there's some nuance and some truth in both sides of the story. Like, I think, you know, one has to be right and one has to be wrong, to put it bluntly here. Like, I've been reading, obviously, a lot of the reporting that's happened since all this dropped, and I believe KJ alluded to this yesterday. Joshua Cloak of The Athletic has been reporting as well. And I'll just read some of it. Like, Joshua Cloak of The Athletic reported yesterday, multiple sources told The Athletic that after Friday's meeting, so this was before even they trained on Saturday, Davies informed Marsch he felt fit enough to play and that he wanted to play. Okay, so you take that and then you compare it to the statements that the agent has made to a reporter in Germany. The agent said, I was surprised that he started because he had communicated he wasn't good to start. That's Alphonso Davies. Again, another quote. Jesse Marsch should know not to take risks with players when they tell you they can't play. So you have the agent saying that Alphonso clearly communicated he couldn't play and didn't want to play. And now you have these reports from sources, presumably with inside the camp, saying the exact opposite of that. So you have two possibilities. Either the agent is right and it's a really bad look for Jesse Marsch and a really difficult one on that side, or the agent is wrong and it's a really bad look for Alphonso Davies' agent to have said that. I don't know how you kind of marry those two stories and come to a resolution where, you know, we can kind of move forward here and everyone's happy.
That's the most difficult part of it all. Like, from my perspective about this relationship and how we move forward, all that revolves around Alphonso Davies. And that's who I care the most about in this scenario, is Davies' well-being, both in terms of the physical challenges that he's now facing because of this injury. And he's been on such great form as well. And I think he was kind of hitting all the right chords just in terms of his play mentality, heading into a big 15 months ahead of the World Cup. The problem is here, and I read the storytelling, just like Oliver, the Canadian Soccer Association have tried to, inform journalists about their side of the story, and I think that's being told over the last 24 hours or so. But in terms of the agent speaking out, you have to assume, based upon an agent speaking out, that it's not just a rash emotional moment, that he's reflecting the views of Alphonso Davies. Like, that is a typical role of an agent, but this isn't a typical agent to player relationship. Nadel Husay is like family to Alphonso Davies in a lot of ways. Like, he's built his business, his agency, which they represent players like Adekubi and Ahmed and Halbouni and some others, on basically the career of Alphonso Davies. These two are intrinsically linked. And it'd be a weird scenario, maybe not unprecedented or completely outrageous to suggest that maybe the agent is just speaking on his terms and his feelings about this and not Alphonso Davies. But nothing about this is typical, right? So maybe you hope that this was just a moment of emotion where it might have got the best of someone rather than a strain on the relationship between national team manager and his most important and his handpicked captain. That's the difficult part and the difficult thing to decipher right now. Two different stories, a lot of emotion, but blurred lines and where the truth actually lay is a little bit murky right now. And that's what's difficult. What we do know is that Canada's top player is injured, and he's not going to be on the field for quite some time. So hopefully time heals all wounds, both physical, emotional, relationship wise. But I don't know how you put the genie back in the bottle here. Someone feels like Jesse Marsch did, whether it's right or wrong, did the star player dirty here. And it's very difficult to unsee that. And that perception is going to linger around, even if it might not be based in truth. That's where we are. And that's why, for me, the situation is a disaster. It is the potential to linger and cause more problems going forward.
It's a fascinating relationship, the agent and the player. And unless you're a coach or a football operations manager of some kind, you don't often interact with the agents, and you got to speak to an agent to get their perspective always. I've talked to a couple of coaches about this particular situation, and there's almost contempt for agents at times and how they try to represent their clients and cause a firestorm. But we haven't really seen this, certainly in Canadian football and really in Canadian sports. I think Alan Walsh and the Marc-Andre Fleury sword picture was the last time we were talking about an agent speaking over his client in this space. It's just such a bizarre and unique situation.
Well,
and go ahead, Ollie.
Well, just one thing I will say is that it all happened very quickly, and I kind of wish that we just could have all taken a breath. Like I believe like the news of his injury was released by Bayern like the early hours of the morning yesterday, and by like 8-9 a.m. the comments from the Eastern time, the comments from the agent were out. And I totally understand that there's a relationship there that's not just professional, it's personal as well. And he would have been very emotional and disappointed, and for Alphonso, I imagine. I just wish we could have maybe taken a breath and sat on public comments for a little while, and perhaps this situation could have been avoided.
Of course, I don't think the comments, even if he actually feels that way, do his client any favors. Correct. Here. Like Davies is the sympathetic figure here, and now it's created this storm completely unnecessarily. If there were issues between the way that things were handled, these things can happen behind the scenes. The fact that it was very personal towards Marsch, like that's what was jarring for me, and that's what I can't unsee based upon the way that this situation's played out.
Well, Garth, it was you yesterday that said on the program, quite frankly, that the honeymoon period for Jesse Marsch was over. All the good vibes, the coast-to-coast tour, all the supporters certainly falling in line, if not falling in love with the direction of this program under the new manager. And the rah-rah mentality from inside the camp, it felt nice again. It felt good again. And it was your stance that that's done now, and that this is up to Jesse Marsch to roll up his sleeves, try to just smooth some ruffle feathers and get this program and this conversation back on track to the football. Do you remain steadfast in that belief 24 hours later that it's a new era, I suppose, or a new chapter in Jesse Marsch's time with this men's national team?
I do. I firmly believe that. There's only so long you can run off the vibes of Copa America when everything was new. Where the team only won one game in 90 minutes, by the way, but it was the way that they played, and they were competitive in friendlies against, France, and there was a lot to like. And Jesse Marsch was off the field, was saying all the right things, whether it be standing up for Canada and doing a lot of press and getting out there and being the spokesperson for this national team. Just all the boxes were being ticked. I think this kind of started, some indications started maybe last fall in the games that they were playing. I didn't think that they played necessarily great football. And the game against Mexico, I just didn't think when you have 4 months to plan, and it seemed like it was the Red Bull way or bust. Like everything was played at a breakneck speed. It was hectic. It was out of control at times. And I don't think at times where Canada needed a little bit more from a tactical perspective that anything was brought to the table in that game. And some of the selection choices were curious in that game against Mexico. It wasn't a great night for Jesse Marsch. What came out of that was the Alphonso Davies injury and situation. Then he takes on the United States that he has a history with, and a ridiculous sending off. Like, I don't know why he had to feel like it was a moment to go out and get sent off when 2 calls were the correct calls made by the official based on something that maybe happened in the first game. And then there was the whole political rant, and then he was trying to roll it back. I just don't think from an on-field or off-field perspective, it was a very good week for Jesse Marsch. And this is kind of the biggest part of it all, is that now there's a little bit of unknown about the status between him and his star player. So the team needs to be better on the field. That's his job to get the most out of this team. And what I worry, if from a tactical perspective, if this group doesn't evolve, Canada, come the World Cup, will be a very hard team to play against. There's no doubt about that. But they're going to be relying upon really good individual performances, and there are really good players on this team. I think that they need to be unlocked or unleashed a little bit more, and that's Jesse Marsch's job to do that first and foremost. So, yeah, I think the honeymoon is over. The criticism is there, both for on and off the field issues, and we'll see how he manages it. It's not an easy job managing the Canadian national team with everything that comes along with it. We know that. So I think that we've entered the real world stage of his tenure.
Yeah, we can't go into another World Cup relying on individuals and emotional kind of power. Like we've seen how that ends, and it's Croatia 4, Canada 1. So I think there does need to be real progress seen in the coming months, starting obviously at the Gold Cup in terms of the performances of this team. I don't think Jesse Marsch is under any pressure. Don't get me wrong. Like, he still has a Copa America semi-final and now 2 wins back-to-back against the Americans in his locker. So probably we're probably looking for a bit more progress than I would think the average fan is, who I think generally still heavily approves of Jesse Marsch. But yeah, to echo Wheels' comments, I did think that this week was a bit of a disappointment, or last week was a bit of a disappointment for Canada. I felt like it was a week that ran again on that kind of emotional energy more than it did kind of real progress in the performances compared to what we were watching last summer at the Copa America. So that's what I want to see now going into the Gold Cup is this team, on the pitch, tactically, technically, in terms of its performances really take some strides compared to where they were at the start of Jesse Marsch's tenure.
And Ollie, I freely admit, like, perhaps I'm downplaying the significance of beating the U.S. in a third place game. 1, it was a third place game. You weren't playing for a trophy. And 2, the United States were so bad, it was very difficult for me to get excited about the Canadian performance. They were okay. They were perhaps just our expectations have raised and you're just expecting more. And I think that the team, although pragmatic and got the job done, it just under-delivered in terms of the performances and some of the selections and the way things played out. Just there's some curious decisions made from my perspective.